Is this definitely recording? Because I ain't doing this for a third time, trust me.
To clarify, the first time it recorded all of me, just not you.
It's all about you. Hello and welcome to the second episode 70 of the Movies in a Podshell podcast. The podcast where we take a theme for a second time. This week's theme is the zone of interest and the Oscars. As always, I'm joined by a guy that says stuff like, I had my hair cut last pod and it looked effing amazing. But you can call him John. How you doing, John? Are you pure happy? Are you buzzing, mate?
I'd love to deny that quote, but it was said afterwards because I was quite embarrassed when no one's going to see the other recording, so do you know what? It doesn't even matter. But I was.
What other recording, John?
Well, it doesn't exist anymore. So as you guys probably guessed, we recorded this episode on Thursday. It was a lovely 2 hours and 10 minutes of content, which was utterly useless as for some reason Riverside decided to only record moi. Here we are again. We are going to cover the Oscar ballot, and Jamie and I are going to discuss who we think is going to win / who will win.
I'm so excited for you to hear that for the first time.
Yeah, I really can't wait to redo that. I'll stop being salty soon, I promise. But also, we are going to talk about today the Zone of Interest, which we were able to go to a press screening of recently. So, normally we do a lovely bit of what we've been watching, but due to the fact it's Friday evening and we're trying to get this out ASAP, we won't be doing that. However, you will have a bumper what we've been watching on the next episode, and I've actually been to the cinema again, my God, and we can discuss that next time.
Yeah.
Jamie, how are you before we go any further? Like, are you okay, despite the fact we are back here doing this?
So I'm glad that we didn't find out that it didn't record on the night of recording, because I probably wouldn't have slept and I would have been like screaming into a towel. However, John called me the day after recording, and I'm like, oh, that's weird for John to call me like at like 11 o'clock. I'm like, hi mate, you all right? And he's like, not really. I can't see the recording, and so we logged on and it wasn't there, and then we figured out what had happened. It was, let's be honest, John. So shall we come clean to the listeners? It was kind of our fault, wasn't it?
So apparently on this app platform, I'd invited Jamie as a producer rather than as a guest. Now, Jamie's technically a co-host, so I see him as technically a producer, but that is not how the software sees him. It didn't tell me this at any point. It didn't tell me he wasn't being recorded. It showed me his microphone levels. But Here we are. It doesn't matter. You know, the AI transcript of this is going straight to Riverside, and they're about to send me a really angry email about this negative feedback.
I'll be sending them an angry email to say that, like, please will you tell us when you're not being recorded? That would be lovely. Thanks.
The funniest part of it, though, is at the end when we finish these recordings, it says, "How was your experience today? Like, how do you rate it?" And James like 5 stars, like brilliant,
amazing. Oh my God,
so
like yeah.
And basically, it was a disaster. Anyway, hey ho.
Do you know what though? The listeners aren't going to feel that. They're going to get a slightly shorter episode today than we would normally do, but it's either that or nothing, you know. And we're going to have this exactly the same energy as we always have, just like we did on the last pod. That was amazing, by the way. That was a shame because it was a 5-star, probably our best ever episode actually. God knows what this is going to be like. But anyway, John,
do you remember when we gave away the winning lottery numbers, which happened to come out this week? And you know, we did all these amazing things.
It was so good. It was so good. And the free gift, I gave away the whole of my Blu-ray collection as well. It was really cool. So look forward to getting that in the post. Whoever's got that. So John, let's keep up this energy, and let's talk about a film about the Holocaust. So we got invited by the Mockingbird Cinema, who had a press screener from A24. So one thing we always we will mention is that the Mockingbird Cinema is amazing. We're not sponsored by them or anything like that, but I genuinely do think it's the heart of the cinema scene in Birmingham. It's 10 o'clock on a Sunday we went to watch this, which was arguably, it was a heavy film at 10 o'clock on a Sunday, wasn't it, John?
It was a heavy film for 10 o'clock Sunday morning. However, it's, do you know what? Well, look, we'll get into it. I was about to say things about the plot. We'll get into it, but actually, it could have been more. In my head, I imagined it would be worse, as in it would have shown me even more things. But we'll get into what it does and doesn't do shortly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we rocked up at 10 a.m. ready for our little press screen, and it was lovely. Like just such a cracking cinema, and I would just implore anyone, if they're ever in Birmingham, it's just down the road from the city centre in Digbeth, and it's just like super affordable,
almost too affordable, really. Like, I'm like, why don't you guys put your prices up? Super affordable, super friendly. You can have a beer while you're in there. And they just have the bottle to show films that no one else really would show a lot of the time. So a lot of the time you would have your big cinema multiplexes, and they just wouldn't be showing the films that the Mockingbird would show, and they continue to do that. And yeah, it's just great, really. Like, I feel like it's like a culture thing in Birmingham. Like, it's just this little part of, like, I feel like it's a cinema that not a lot of people know about, that more people need to know about it. But imagine what would happen then, John. I'd be sad because everything would be always sold out. I wouldn't be sad. I'd be super happy for them because they deserve it. They're amazing.
What was the first screening you did there? I remember going to see the horror film with you. The sequel to
Evil Dead. Evil Dead Rise. We went to.
That was the first one I saw there, because it's when the guy was laughing at me for my reaction of how terrified I was.
You've done me there. So I think that maybe one of the first films I've seen was it was the film about the fishermen, and they. Oh God, who was in it? God, I can't remember now.
I think you went when I was away. You went with Watch with Beck, right?
No, that was a separate time, actually. So I'll tell you what. Yeah, while you're looking at that, I will just get that, because it was such a good film that I can't even remember. God's Creatures. God's Creatures was the first one I went to. I'm quite sure. So went to see God's Creatures. Yeah, that was early last year. We started going to these screenings, and obviously because of the writers' strike, there wasn't a lot on. But do you know what? We will always jump at the chance to go whenever we get to go. So
check it out, guys. Check it out.
Feel a bit naughty going in there, for an early screening. I bet people will be listening to this like, well, I go to early screenings all the time. Well, do you know what? It was a relatively new thing for us, so just feel a bit naughty seeing something that's not out yet. Feel cool. I'm not cool, but anyway, we're going to talk about Jonathan Glazer. We're going to talk about his 2024 film, or 2023, no matter where you live. It's called The Zone of Interest.
Diese Blumen, das ist ja wunderschön. Ja, die Azaleen da. Hier gibt es auch Gemüse. Bisschen Kräuter, auch Rosmarin. Hier ist rote Beete. Das ist Fenchel. Die Sonnenblumen, ja.
So I checked online before to say, is it 2023 and 2024? And it did say 2023 release. However, it didn't come out here till 2024. So
exactly, and that's always a confusing one. So Babylon, for example, is classed as a 2022 film, I believe,
right,
for some people, but it's actually a 2023 film for us because it was out in January. So Jonathan Glazer and me have a bit of a strange relationship, actually. So he's obviously the director of Sexy Beast, which we've covered before on the pod with. We had a guest for that pod, our first ever guest, John.
Harry Van Gorkum.
There we go. And then he did a film called Under the Skin, which I actually hated. And I was expecting to... This is the problem of hype. You expect something, and I expected it to be amazing. And then it's one of the worst films I've ever seen, like in my opinion,
It didn't speak to you. That's okay.
It didn't speak to me at all.
It wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me.
No, but genuinely, sometimes there are just things where it's just not on the radar, and that's fine.
No, it wasn't for me at all. No. It had. I thought I would love it. It's about an alien, but it's just really
not
just
in
about,
the way you think.
No,
but yeah.
driving about Scotland, looking out the window. That's basically what you're talking. However,
anyway.
Jonathan Glazer, thank you so much. You've smashed this, hasn't he?
He has. I mean, what a tough subject matter to go into, but this is loosely based on the book Zone of Interest, but obviously these are true events being depicted, and Jonathan Glazer picked a very specific directorial style for this, a very specific style of direction, which is, we read an article on the BBC, which was him discussing how he wanted this to look like Big Brother. And what I mean by that is rather than in a normal film, the camera's moving and following people as they go all the way through. I sat next to Jamie and said, this camera's not moved yet for like the first 20 minutes. And essentially what it was doing was, imagine like it's a fly on the wall. Literally feels like that. So everything's framed very centrally. Feels quite claustrophobic, everything looking down hallways or like rooms. But you're watching this family. So, sorry, we need to get into plot in a second.
We do.
But essentially you're watching this family and how they live their life next to the horrors that are going on literally next door to them, but you're seeing it in a way which you feel like you shouldn't be able to see, and it feels like voyeuristic in itself.
It does.
And it's also shot in a way to make it feel like their lives are quite mundane, like this is just day to day for them. You just happen to be able to see it.
Absolutely.
And it's not plot heavy. However, Jamie will now discuss what the plot is.
I mean, it's a very simple plot. So we follow a commandant of Auschwitz, Rudolf Hoss, and he is played... sorry, my whole thing's gone blank. Sorry. So this is... Look at, I've done it so much smoother the first time, and I'm not even joking. Commandant of Auschwitz, Rudolf Hoss, played by Christian Friedel, and his wife Hedwig, played by Sandra Hüller, who is in Anatomy of a Fall, which we'll talk about later on. Mm-hmm. Arguably, I think she could have had a supporting actress nomination for this, probably. So this is basically about a family, as John said, living next to a concentration camp. Rudolf Hoss works in the concentration camp, runs the concentration camp, mm-hmm. And then just goes back to his family and just acts like everything is normal. Good father, good lifestyle. The woman, his wife, played by Sandra Hüller, Hedwig, she's got her dream life. She has her dream life in this world where this is what she's been promised, and it's absolutely delivering, isn't it? She's got luxury.
She calls herself the Queen of Auschwitz, which is shocking in itself, and she's basically cherry picking the best items from the Jews who are going into the concentration camp. So essentially, her husband comes home, so she finds diamonds in the toothpaste she talks about, so she's going to order more and more toothpaste to see what comes from them. She has the best furs, so she has like the best clothes available. She even gives some out to the people who work in the house.
Yeah.
So there's lots of
who are Polish people, I think.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's shocking to hear how they refer to the Jewish community, much like when you hear outright racism in a film like you talked about Green Book the other week.
Yeah.
And like again, similar example of hearing it in that context, and it is massively shocking. But what's the most shocking thing about it is there's no one in the film correcting them. It's just being said as fact. And that's why the film makes you so uncomfortable, and is a very good way of depicting this to make you feel as horrendous as you should. Because we talk about the fact that Auschwitz is next door, but let's be clear, you never see anything within the confines of Auschwitz. You see everything from the other side.
It's so clever.
You hear it all the time. The sound design for this film, which we'll get into in nominations later, is incredible, because essentially you hear horrific noises of gunshots from afar, people being tortured, people screaming, people working, and then the main one is hearing the coal fire,
the furnace
going as they are executing,
and that's going throughout the whole entire film. It's so cleverly done. And the one thing I was scared of, actually, because I felt pretty terrible watching it as it was. Like it's as I think, as you referred to, John, it's a mood piece, really, without sounding like that, but the sound design is so clever in how everything's implied through the sound. And I was worried because it's strange. I think, having been to Berlin, having been to the Holocaust Museum in Berlin, I would really recommend anyone go to these things. John, actually, you've been to Auschwitz, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
These places are really important for us to visit and for us to go and experience and understand what happened, and the fact that it was just 80 years ago,
the weight of the history behind it, and almost to quantify, because sometimes when you hear the numbers it's hard to actually get your head around. But when you see, like, at Auschwitz, they have like the collection of the shoes of a small collection, by the way, not all of them, of like people who died there and who were killed there, and it's shocking. You see, like, they have the cuts of the hair of people because they did all these
letters.
It's really, really eerie. It's not pleasant history, but I think it's something that should be remembered so it doesn't happen again.
It's really important that these stories are keep being told.
And on that, this film being a 12A, because it is a 12A, I think is really clever, because I think it will be able to be used in schools and
absolutely.
educational settings.
Do you know what? I hadn't considered that. That's really good.
I always think of that because Schindler's List is a film that shows you from the inside a lot more so, doesn't it? And it's obviously harder to showcase things like that because of the age rating until people are in like the latter years of school. But something like this could be shown because of the fact it's 12A. And as we said, it was incredible to me how effective it was without showing what was going on, because we know what's going on. And the use of sound helps that. The use of colour. So they have a guest come to stay, and in the night, the sky is literally red and ash is going everywhere because of what's happening next door, and it's shocking.
They talk about the so Rudolf Hoss, who is by the way a real man. They apparently they talk about the Jewish people and the concentration camp like it's a factory. So my brother works in a milk distribution factory for soya milk, and when he talks to me about his work, he talks about efficiency, the way the line runs, how efficient it is, how many pallets of milk that he's producing per hour. And that's exactly what they're talking about in this. They're talking about labour costs. They're talking about, I think, John, you mentioned...
how quickly we can get people through.
This is literally. It. He says when he sees a room of people...
I think they refer to them or something, yeah.
Yeah, he says when he sees a room of people, he just thinks about how fast he can...
gas them.
Basically.
Literally, like, and how, and what does he say, like... the height of he gauges it from the height of the scene, all these things. He's just obsessed.
They're talking about, like, they've got two furnaces and how fast one can power up while the other one's cooling down, and talking about efficiency and it's disgusting. It's shocking. And I said to you, like, what I was trying to get at earlier, I didn't need to see anything else, because the atmosphere that the film brings, the way that it's framed, like, you feel like the whole point of this film is that, I said to you, when you mentioned about the camera being still, I said my interpretation of that was that that's people watching, that's people standing by watching something horrendous happen, and that's kind of like what happens in life now. Like, I think like my RE teacher back in when I was like 13, someone did something horrible in class, like I don't know, turn the TV off or something, or turn the lights off when she was out of the room, and she comes in and she says, "Who did that?" And everyone's like quiet, because I'm not going to grass up whoever did it. And she's like, "Well, every single one of yous are complicit, because you're not owning up to you saw who did it, but you're not owning up to who did it, so you're allowing it to happen." So I think a big part of the film is about that, about the camera being still, and us watching it like it's a documentary, or watching it like a fly on the wall piece, and not doing anything about it. I think that's a lot of it's about that, and it's come at like quite a poignant time as well with the stuff going on in Gaza, and yeah, like when I was speaking about the Holocaust Museum in Berlin, it's that museum is crazy. Like, I find these things like quite interesting. The Holocaust Museum is very it doesn't tell you a way to act when you go in. You just have to. You just go in, and everyone just happens to be silent, walking around in silence,
it's like
show of
walking into
respect.
A church almost. Yeah, it's a respect thing, isn't it?
It really is. But no one's told you to act like that, but people do. And they've got these like big blocks outside, which is the Holocaust Memorial like piece. And there's these blocks, and the ground goes like down and up, and the blocks are big and small. And the interpretation of those blocks, there's a couple of interpretations of them. One of the interpretations would be that each block represents a Jewish person, and they're different sizes, different people, that kind of thing. Another interpretation of it is that in the middle of the Holocaust Museum, with these blocks, they're really high, like it's very oppressive when you go in. And it's outside as well. One of the other interpretations would be it's a sign of the Jews being dragged down. As in, and that's where you find yourself in the middle of these blocks, and it's like just wall to wall. It's like a maze almost. That's again another thing, and it's crazy, because we're talking about, like, it's important to remember these things, and kind of remember the people, and it's hard to believe the amount of people and stuff. But I've told you the story before, John. You're going to have to hear it again about a Holocaust denier that I met in real life, in actual real life, a Holocaust denier, a person that I used to play football with for like 3 years, and this is all based off the Berlin story, by the way. Played football with him for 3 years, didn't really know him outside of football, just like, we turn up on a Monday night, we play football, that's it. How are you doing? Yeah, I'm good, thanks, cheers, happy days. Brings his kids, his two sons. And one day, like, we were just like finishing football, and we were just standing in the car park, and I'm like, And he's like, yeah, so what you been up to? Like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, fine, yeah. Just got back from Berlin. It was amazing. Like, the experience was amazing. Went to, did this, that, and the other, seen the Berlin Wall, and went to the Holocaust Museum. I said, it's just absolutely harrowing. He's like, you know, it's all lies though, right? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, you know, those piles of bodies. He's like, they're Germans. And then I, like, jokingly, like, having just finished football, jokingly I was like, are you a Nazi? As a joke, because I'm like, this has never happened before. And he's like, no, I'm a truther. He's like, I'm a National Socialist, which, by the way, if you Google what a National Socialist is, it comes up with Nazism, literally, in brackets. He says, you need to go on YouTube, Google so-and-so's name. I'm not even going to give the guy the airtime because he's an arse piece, obviously. You need to Google so-and-so's name. He went to Auschwitz and asked a few questions. I was like, questions like what? Like, how is it a cover-up? Because it's obviously not. I was like, 6 million Jews died. Like, I said, are you denying that? We got into this, like, really quite heated back and forth because I was obviously fuming. Then he starts talking about how people shouldn't be mixing with each other. And I was like, you are literally a Nazi. I was like, in front of his son was standing there. I was like, in front of your son. I was like, you should not be speaking like that. I said, you're crazy. Like, and we had, like, quite a, like, well, as you can imagine, like, pretty big argument about it. And I was, like, really taking it. What do you do? Like, I guess, what do you do when you're living your life for, like, 30 years and you've only ever seen this stuff on telly or read in books or that kind of thing? Like, what do you do in that situation? Like, you don't know how to confront it. You don't know how. I guess it would be the same as, like, if you saw someone being outwardly racist to a person. Like, in the moment, you think you would act a certain way, but I guess you're not sure until you're confronted with that. So we went our separate ways, and obviously I said I completely disagree. I said you're absolutely crazy. I said, I can't believe the things you're saying. We didn't get into a fight or anything because, well, I'm not going to fight him in the middle of a car park or in front of his kids. But I did tell everyone we played football with that this person is a Holocaust denier, and I told them exactly everything he was saying. I said, just so you know, I'm not doing this anymore. I said, if he's playing, I ain't playing. I said, because if we are playing with him, we are saying that it's okay for people to have those views that we're playing with. And that was kind of it. That was literally it. But that's just the reason I tell that story is because there are people out there living in plain sight, like, that we're rubbing shoulders with on the daily. Like, 3 years. Played football with him for 3 years. Probably played football with him about 100 times, and I never knew. He did wear a Germany shirt a few times. Well, that doesn't mean nothing. Crazy. No. So, I told you that at the time, didn't I? And you were like, we spoke about it in private, but couldn't believe it that these people actually are living and breathing and exist. You expect... Also, by the way, I don't know why he thought it was safe to tell me his feelings. I don't know whether... I didn't even have a shaved head at the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a choice. It's not about, like... So, yeah, I don't get it. I don't know whether he thought I was going to be like, oh, guess what? Me too, buddy. Like, high five in the car park. No. Ridiculous. Anyway, so... Let's move on. Bring the mood back up slightly. I do want to talk about Sandra Hüller's performance because she plays the wife of Rudolf Höss, Hedwig. She is potentially, like, I think she comes across as maybe the cruelest person in the whole film somehow, even though she's not working in the Holocaust Museum, sorry. She's not working in the concentration camp. But there's a conversation had between her and her husband, which actually, that made my, like, stomach turn in terms of, like, I thought she was the cruelest person in this whole film, with the way that her husband is being shipped out somewhere else because he's doing so well. His labor targets are in, you know, and she's like, well, I don't want to go. I want to stay here in Dreamland, you know. Yeah, but she's quietly playing a really incredible part, isn't she?
Yeah, and she does really well in the sequences. Like, that one you've mentioned is around the time of the birthday party, and you have real juxtaposition there because you've got this, and Jonathan Glazer had photos of this from the book, which was they were having, like, a birthday party whilst next door, all the kids having a great time, and, like, the people in the camp could hear those kids having a good time, having a beach party or whatever, and next door is literally executions going on left, right, centre. So it's shocking, but after that, she confronts him about the fact she doesn't want to leave. because he effectively became like an inspector of different concentration camps. That was his role, to
got promoted,
targets, and to
he got promoted.
But there we are. So and again, the film is plot light. It is more of a mood piece because it's letting you know how it feels and what was going on. And that's not a criticism, that's just an observation, because it's not like Saving Private Ryan where it's like you're following Tom Hanks and off you go. This is
exactly.
You're seeing everything that happens within this house and a few shots from without, from the outside.
If you know Jonathan Glazer's films, I would say that like it's not crazy dissimilar to Under the Skin. I think this is my problem, that I was expecting something different from Under the Skin. This is to just summarize and to kind of get into the Oscar talk. This is a really important piece of film, and I'm not just saying like it's not because of the subject matter. Like it is important because of that, but the way he's directed this and managed to get his point across without showing these things, the use of the sound design. It's not a film I could be recommending to everyone, but it is a special film.
And we said on the previous record about the fact that the actors actually really enjoyed working on it despite the heavy subject matter, because it allowed them, because of the document, or the Big Brother cameras, however you want to say it, there's lots of long takes, so it allows the performances to play through. They're not worried about hitting a marker for the close-up or whatever else. I'm sure they do have to hit markers, but you're allowed to play a scene outright, and they said it was more like doing a theatrical play, rather than filming. And I think it allows the performances to come to the fore more so at points, because the movement within the frame is them, not the camera, so you are solely focusing on what they are saying and what they are doing, and that is a very bold choice. It could have been, you could have easily done it as the German film Falling Down about Hitler's like last hours in the bunker. It could have been done from that perspective of seeing, with Rudolph, but they didn't do that, and I'm glad they didn't. But it's a very, very good film. It's hard to say like you really enjoyed it, because it's obviously a subject matter which isn't something you can enjoy.
I was speaking to my other half's dad about this, and just about the film, and just said, they had XYZ this film, and he was saying, have you ever? He said there's a book by a woman called Kitty Hart, who was a Holocaust survivor, and she said the book's called I Am Alive. And so she wrote this book about surviving the Holocaust and stuff. And I was like, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to try and buy it. So I went and tried to buy it, and it's simply a book from the 1970s. It is simply unavailable. I found one copy on Amazon, like pre-owned. It was £470 at the time. It's gone now. So it's not available on Kindle either, by the way, I must say. So it's not digital, it's not physical, it's nowhere. And so the fact that this is a book adaptation, these things are so important, and I say it all the time. Like I love talking to Vicky's dad about films, because he's in his 70s, and it's harder to. There are these people. They're not going to be around forever, And so, like, same as your granddad, uncle, granddad, who's in his mid-90s, who is an expert on westerns, and it's really interesting to hear about what it was like back then, because we'll never have any idea, and they're the last kind of people, word of mouth, that can tell us exactly how these events played out. He's seen everything, like your granddad, like he's lived through all this stuff, and to hear him talk about it and stuff is just incredible, really. So it's important. I often give old people a hard time because they benefited off, like hyperinflation, and they've got good pensions. But in terms of that, they're very important. Eh? Anything else to say, John, about the zone of interest?
Nothing else to report. We are going to touch on it slightly more so when we get onto the ballot for the Academy Awards, the Oscars.
It's in your local cinema everywhere right now, so go and see it. But I think John's gonna walk us through the Oscars, and then how far are we in, John? How long have we gone so far?
We're half an hour in.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, we can for us.
We can tie this up in another half an hour, maybe. As you can see, it's all the way up to the top because we just had a quick pause. I've got my Woodford Reserve because it's Friday night, and we haven't recorded on a Friday night for so long. So I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna need a whiskey, or probably about 4 to get me through this, and so I'm just not bored to tears. But do you know what, John? The good thing is that I'm just happy to be hanging out with you. You know.
That's very kind of you. It's very
Tell us
kind.
about the Oscars.
Right, we are going to go through category by category. Jamie's going to tell me who he wants to win, and then we're going to talk about who's probably going to win. Spoiler alert, a lot of it is Oppenheimer and Christopher Nolan.
Yeah,
so,
it's sad, isn't it? Is it sad?
It's weird having the same conversation twice. My point on it the other day was I feel like this will be the one that gets the most recognition because it's probably one of the most culturally important films in terms of the subject matter it covers. If that's reflected in the Oscar nomination, I think it reflects in the Oscar nomination, but is it going to be reflected in the awards itself? Let's find out. However, the first section we're going to go through is Best Visual Effects. So the options are The Creator, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and Napoleon.
Yes. So I've seen all of these except Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but we know for a fact the CGI is going to be trash on that. So
it's because of the little raccoon.
What do you mean?
Rocket does like a performance and cries and stuff. People love it.
Oh, does he? Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard. Oh, it's the saddest one yet.
It's really good.
Right. So the one thing I will say is that the Creator looks amazing. It really does look amazing, and it's. I think the budget was not as big as a normal film. What I will say, visually effects wise,
I think it was 50 mil. I think from off the top of my head.
50 million.
I thought it was,
which is very cheap for a big sci-fi film.
Yeah.
It looks cracking. So
I'm gonna Google it now. Go.
However, if we're talking about actual money, we've got to be talking about 80 mil. Okay, cool. So it's quite expensive. Godzilla -1 is who I want to win. I need Godzilla -1 to win because, again, really low budget, but looks really high budget and looks as good as anything you'll see, right?
Yeah, Again, I think it's a disservice to be like, for a 50 million film, like, it looks great. It's like, no, it just looks great. The budget doesn't come into it. There was I don't remember a ropey shot in Godzilla. I mean, Godzilla's Godzilla. It's a monster, isn't it? But
they did that. They did that to as an ode to the old Godzilla films. They made him look that certain way, which I.
No, but what I'm saying is, it looked a photoreal version of it, though. I mean, the first attack, especially, which takes place at the night time, and it's kind of like the Jurassic Park. First time you see the T-Rex vibes. It's so
like medium Zilla.
So well done. Yeah, it's really, really good.
For this, I think that Napoleon could quite easily get. I'm completely saying. What I am doing is I'm chucking out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Mission Impossible. They can both be chucked out. I think
made
Napoleon.
A case for Napoleon last time because there's lots of hidden effects. So it's one of those. Where
there was no last time. John.
Sorry.
So let's.
People promote the fact they go, there's no effects. They're only allowed 100 people fighting on set or whatever. So there's lots of digital set extensions. There's lots of adding in extra crowds. So there's lots of hidden effects in Napoleon, which I thought were really done well. So yeah. Jamie, what are you picking though? Who do you think is going to win?
I think I do think Godzilla. So I think Godzilla is going to win, and I want Godzilla to win. Napoleon might be there or thereabouts, but I want and think Godzilla will win because of all the things we've just mentioned.
Right then. Next one. Best sound. We have The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest.
So I haven't seen Maestro, but I have seen the rest. So the one thing I will say, the most impressive thing about The Creator wasn't that it was shot on John's Sony FX3. It was the fact that the soundscape on The Creator is just so. It sounds so big. It sounds so futuristic. It's really, really well done. But what I will say is, do you know what's weird? I don't have Mission Impossible down for anything here at all. Mostly maybe because it was I'd seen it so early on. I don't think Oppenheimer's going to get it, although the sound is good. Particularly the actual bomb going off. I loved that, how it's silent and then the crackle. However, I think that Oppenheimer's going to win a lot of awards. I think this is going to be between The Creator and The Zone of Interest, because The Creator, honestly, the sound is one of the highlights. I want Zone of Interest to win. I think Zone of Interest will win because I don't think it will win anything else.
The use of sound is so important in that film as well.
It's the film.
It's not just well done sound design. It sounds great. It's the entire film is based around the sound going on next door. So I'd be staggered myself if it didn't win. But
It's got to, isn't it? It's I think that the film is nothing without the sound. You would argue that any film's nothing without sound. The sound is the most important part of that film, right? So
I think so, yeah.
I think it's so genius what he's done. So let's go with, I want Zone of Interest, and I think Zone of Interest will win.
Next thing up is the best production design. The nominees are Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. The one that stands out to me immediately here is Barbie, because it is very, very distinctive. And the other one that stuck out to me was Napoleon, for the fact of recreating that time period and all the things that involves for the sets. And
yeah.
I
realise here, so I can't remember. I don't remember Oppenheimer particularly sticking out for me in its production design. The time period.
We said this. No, we didn't say it before because we haven't recorded it before. The facts where they made the atomic bomb. I've forgotten the name of the town. The fact that they made that town in New Mexico and all that jazz. I think that is a big deal. To be fair, so I think that should be recognised. But like, I think that Barbie's is more distinctive because of the fact it's like recreating a fake plastic world of the toys, and that was like incredible to see it in.
I'm gonna go. I think that Napoleon's in with a shout because all the costumes were handmade, and they've recreated that time period, and it's a grand thing. However, I don't think Napoleon's going to win. I think it deserves to be recognised, which it has, because it's had a nomination, obviously. I haven't seen Poor Things, so I can't tell you. I can just tell you what Emma Stone's wearing every time I see Poor Things be mentioned. I think you're right with Barbie, because with Barbie, it's so unique, and so they've done something with Barbie World, they've done something with the real world, and they've done something with like the mid world, where the way they travel between each world. I think the production design's the thing that stands out for me the most in Barbie. I say the thing that stands out for me the most. Obviously, it's good writing, etc. I do think it's got to be Barbie, hasn't it, for that? Yeah, I think it's got to be Barbie for that. Do you think?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
good.
The next one we agreed on as well. I need to stop saying that. Best original song. The options are The Fire Inside from Flaming Hot, I'm Just Ken from Barbie, It Never Went Away from American Symphony. I did this last time. Can you say it
John,
for me?
Stop this now. The listeners do not know. I done this last time, and I did this last time, and this is what I picked.
A song for my people from the Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm not going to try and pronounce it the other way because I don't want to cause any offence. And the final one was What Was I Made For from Barbie, which made everyone cry and was very popular on TikTok.
Yeah, I think this one's probably a dead cert, to be honest.
I think so.
It's got, so for me, my favourite song, I'm Just Ken's great. It's really funny, it's great, good fun. However, I think Billie Eilish does have a knack for writing stuff. I don't know if she writes her own stuff actually, but either way, is it okay?
Yeah.
Billie Eilish with a Y, Billy with a Y.
I can't remember what he's called, but he
I
wrote.
don't know.
He wrote
Billy with an I and Billy.
What was the song that got her famous though? Like he wrote it with his band and performed it for years, and it never went anywhere. And then she,
I'm just a
recorded
bad girl.
No,
something like that. Yeah, it was. That's what got her famous. What do I know? Eh?
It was not something Eyes, Ocean Eyes. Ocean Eyes was her brother's song, and then he performed it in a band for ages, and it didn't go anywhere. And then she performed it in like the Billie Eilish style, which is incredible. And it took off. No, but then is it
as good as Hungry Eyes from Dirty Dancing?
Oh god. Anyway, on all the behind the scenes of the Bond film, he's always with her, helping her produce. So it's cool. Anyway. Right, so that's Billie Eilish then.
It's got to be Billie Eilish. It's a banger. It's an absolute banger. So we're going to go with Billie Eilish for that.
Next up, Best Original Score, we have American Fiction by Laura Cartman, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny by John Williams, Killers of the Flower Moon. What's up?
Laura Cartman. I'm like, hey you guys. But I read it and it's Cartman, not Cartman. So.
Oh dear. Robbie Robertson, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Ludwig Göransson, and Poor Things, Jerskin Fendrix. Now, just a note on Oppenheimer. The Oppenheimer score was replayed how many million times, I say to you, the other week. And Christopher Nolan actually addressed the fact that TikTok had actually helped the popularity of the film, because there's a certain piece of music which is when he discovers like the main formula or the main piece of like how it's going to work, and I can hear it now in my head, which is really not useful on a podcast. And it got used on loads of like travel videos or like big moments on TikTok and Instagram, didn't it?
Yeah.
So I think for me it's going to be Ludwig Göransson's score, but what do I know? I might be wrong.
Well, so I think I would say with this, I don't particularly remember Killers of the Flower Moon for its score, but John Williams, obviously, it's an Indiana Jones score, so I don't know if he's been nominated before for the Indiana Jones score. He's already got 5 Oscars, and he is the composer with the most nominations of all time, with 48 nominations, which...
Incredible.
How ridiculous is that? So there would have been some years, right? Because there would have been some years where he's been nominated like twice
two
or 3 times.
Yep.
Because it would have been years where he's done, well, I don't know, Indiana Jones and something else. Anyway, so I don't think he's going to get that, because we all know what the Indiana Jones score sounds like. The film absolutely sucks, which I'm really sorry to say, because it doesn't fill me with joy. I was hoping it was good. I am going to go with Ludwig Göransson as well, because Nolan has this thing that we spoke about Time from Inception
by Hans Zimmer. And Ludwig Göransson, I think, is one of the disciples of Hans Zimmer, as in he learnt under his wing many years ago, I believe.
This is an F sharp. Anyway, I don't know.
If it's Hans Zimmer, he's like, here's D. Everything's in the key of D. We like D. Okay?
Do you know what's funny, man? Because your dad would be able to speak very articulately on that exact subject. Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to go with Oppenheimer for that, because the score is... Again, it's at the forefront of the whole film, really.
So if you remember,
as you
it's
mentioned,
like a 3-hour kind of like montage at points. That's me being incredibly derivative of what it actually is, but it uses the score to keep pushing it along and
exactly.
to
That's what you
cut
said.
Through time and letting the score let you know which thing you're looking at what point.
You mentioned at the time it was to keep people's interest up, because people don't have long attention spans nowadays. So
compared
I thought
to
that was really
12 Angry Men
interesting.
was the comparison, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think it's going to go to Oppenheimer. So let's not talk about Best Makeup and Styling, because I've got no idea, because I've seen one of those films.
Nada.
So let's
We are
go
on
for it,
to
John.
Best Film Editing, which is Anatomy of a Fall, Lawrence Seneschal, The Holdovers, Kevin Tent, Killers of the Flower Moon, Thelma Schoonmaker, Oppenheimer, Jennifer Lane, and Poor Things, Yorgos Mavro.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
mate, I'm sorry.
it's fine. It's not you. It's them. I'm joking.
It's definitely.
So Best Film Editing. So I've seen all of these except Poor Things. Now, Anatomy of a Fall I did watch in preparation for the pod, because I was like, right, that's a big one. Like, I must watch it. So I rented it on Apple TV. I'd really recommend you do the same, John. Oh my god, it's so good. So it's been nominated for loads of Oscars for obvious reasons. The film the editing is clever, because it does kind of flick between different time periods, which you wouldn't expect, and it keeps a 2.5 hour film feeling like it's probably less than 2 hours. It's really cleverly done. It's a fantastic piece of work, but out of all of these, I really think there's no doubt about it. I want Killers of a Flower Moon, Thelma Schoonmaker, to win, and I think she will win, because there's been a lot of talk around her anyway, just in terms of the 3 hours and 30 minutes, the fact that the film doesn't feel its runtime whatsoever. It's concise. It just feels good watching it. I do think that she is in the running, and I think that she's going to win it, and I want her to win it. She's an incredible editor, and she's been working with Marty for years. There was a time when people would criticize Martin Scorsese, and they'd be like, Martin Scorsese needs a new editor because Wolf of Wall Street is 3 hours and Casino is nearly 3 hours. I'm like, yeah, but it's not about that, is it? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. If you think editors should just edit a film down to 2 hours or 90 minutes, then you're just incorrect.
It's the story you're trying to tell as well, isn't it? That's the thing.
100%, and we're talking
the
about
period of time you're covering in the film, like all these things you need to consider, like Gangster New York, similar example. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that he's just a modern director making epics, really. Like, I think you would look back at maybe in many, many years' time and look at Killers of the Flower Moon. It's an epic. You'd probably consider There Will Be Blood as an epic as well. Like, these are the kinds of films that people look back on that.
I really wish they bring back intermissions. I went to see 2001 when it was re-released a few years ago, and that film's only like 2 hours long, 2 hours 5 minutes, and it still has an intermission, because that film, a bit like...
No, it's not. It's nearly 2.5 hours. No, I think we've had this conversation before, because every time I go to watch
Space Odyssey is runtime.
Yeah, look at me.
2 hours.
2 hours and 29 minutes.
All right, take it back.
2.5 hours.
But like, for a modern film,
you're wrong.
It's not that long. For a modern film, like, Dark Knight was around that. But my point being, having the intermission was like so nice to have like a break in between. And so I feel like more films could benefit from that now. But yeah,
you are right. Apparently, so there's a few reasons why an intermission would be good.
Makes more money for the cinema when people buy more treats.
That's the badger. Exactly. So when everyone comes out, buys more drinks, buys more popcorn, buys more sweets, that's where cinemas make a lot of their money.
Ice creams as well was sold at the theatre I went to that night.
Oh, was it? I like a bit of ice cream. They do Baskin and Robbins at one of our cinemas, and it's really good. They do birthday cake flavour. I am, however, very boring. And John, tell me what your favourite flavour ice cream is.
Oh, chocolate and vanilla. Maybe cookie dough if I'm pushing the boat out.
Do you know what? I'd expect nothing less to John. My favourite ice cream is chocolate and vanilla, sex position missionary. My favourite colour's beige. I'm joking. I've had 1.5 whiskeys. No, so I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, because my favourite flavour of ice cream is vanilla and mint choc chip. So in actual fact, we're really not that far apart.
I'm just going to ignore
John's
you now.
really trying to skip right ahead now for me.
I am. I'm taking you off course. Best film editing, I think you've covered off. We know who you want to win. Right, we are on to...
John, I'm here to hang out. I'm here to hang out with you. You're the one that wants to get this pod done quick, and I'm here to hang out, with my buddy.
Best costume design. Barbie, Jacqueline Duran, Killers of the Flower Moon, Jacqueline West, Napoleon, Janty Yates and Dave Crossman, Oppenheimer, Ellen Mjornick, and Poor Things, Holly Waddington. Now, the things that came to mind: Napoleon, we just talked about having to recreate all those period pieces, but also the fact that Joaquin Phoenix, being a vegan, didn't want to wear any furs, and obviously that's quite difficult due to the fact that Napoleon was dressed in them, so how they had to go about that, I don't think that would be taken into consideration, but hey-ho. The other one that stuck out for me was Barbie, because Barbie has lots of outfits in it, so there we go.
My question is, are the Barbie outfits just go down to like Cal Vintage and just buy some fur jackets and spandex and stuff? Or am I being extremely derivative of what Jacqueline Duran's done?
I think there's a mix. I think some it's probably imported in and you can buy, and other bits are made specific pieces, because there's certain outfits that the Barbie dolls had, which they will have to have made from scratch.
I'm going to be honest. I want Napoleon to win this, because I don't think Napoleon's going to win anything, and I think that the film was completely overlooked and trashed when it shouldn't have been, because Ridley was being Ridley. I think in terms of the costumes for that, they were all handmade. By the way, I realised that I said that about the production design. I didn't mean that. I meant the costume design. You should have corrected me. Why are you letting me do that? By the way, it looks like I'm not wearing a shirt. Does it look like I'm topless? Because I've got I've got a slightly like pink shirt on. Anyway, never mind. John's like, stop going off course, stick to the plan. This is all brand new content that you definitely didn't hear on the first pod that we didn't do. So costume design, so Barbie's really interesting. It's really fun to look at, but it had to be, right? Whereas Napoleon, I think probably I would say more man hours has gone into Napoleon and more
lots of
handmade stuff. So I think Napoleon deserves to win. I think Barbie will win. So I think Barbie's going to win. I want Napoleon to win for those reasons that I just mentioned. All right?
Best cinematography: El Conde by Edward Lachman, Killers of the Flower Moon by Rodrigo Prieto, Maestro Matthew Libatique, Oppenheimer Hoyt van Hoytema, Poor Things Robbie Ryan. Now, Jamie has issues with some of the cinematography in Oppenheimer because he laughed about the fact they were using IMAX cameras to film close-ups of people's faces for 3 hours and 20 minutes. However, the whole marketing of that film was essentially around that fact, and on that basis, I do believe that Oppenheimer will win Best Cinematography, and also because it's like doubling down on using more practical elements. They say there's no CGI in the film. There is CGI. There's CGI in every film. But a lot of the fact that, you know, the atomic visualizations have been done practically, and there's like people on YouTube I've seen who've recreated them. So I feel like Best Cinematography will go to Oppenheimer. Jamie, disagree with me?
No, I think, unfortunately, I think Oppenheimer will win Best Cinematography. However, I don't want it to win Best Cinematography because you've not seen Killers of the Flower Moon, have you? So I think Killers of the Flower Moon is a really beautifully shot film, beautiful colours. Again, probably shot not dissimilar to the way Nolan shot. I don't think Marty used IMAX cameras, but he does shoot on film. I think that the problem with the Oppenheimer thing is that it very much is the heart of their marketing campaign was a close-up of Cillian Murphy's face about, what have you done? Like, and don't get me wrong, that's no slight on Cillian Murphy because he is genuinely like it's probably the performance of his career. However, I don't know what the big deal is with an IMAX camera shooting someone's face close up to be on IMAX.
Very high resolution.
Tell me, yeah, I know. And so all that would happen, right? I don't know. I think if we're talking about,
it's gonna win it.
I don't think Oppenheimer it will win it. Yeah, and I'll be very genuine.
It will win it. But
if we're talking about Oppenheimer winning, it did not need to be shot on IMAX cameras, basically, because it's a film about a physicist who.
If you like that aspect ratio so much, just shoot 16:9 normally.
I think so. So for me,
like
John's a videographer, right? Obviously, he's never worked on Hollywood films, but he probably could if he wanted. You know, he's big time, baby. He hates it. He's so modest. We're going to shoot a short film, actually. Movies in a Podshell. Yeah, I'm paying John's day. No, John. Did I tell you? I'm hiring you.
God.
I'm hiring you, and you're on your day rate to shoot a short film with me.
He's getting distracted. I'm going to get an IMAX camera and shove it in his face for a few days and see how he feels about it then.
I think you'd be horrified at my pores.
The detail.
And yeah, oh my God. Do you know what? The thought of that turns my stomach, that someone putting a camera up to my face that close, they'd be like, we never realised how ugly he actually is. But anyway, right, I digress, and John doesn't want me to. So we're going to go for Best Cinematography. I think Oppenheimer's going to win, but I think Flower Moon should win and deserves to win and is better cinematography. So I'm going to go with Flower Moon.
So we are then moving on to Best Supporting Actress. We have Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks in The Colour Purple, Amica Ferreira in Barbie, Jodie Foster in Naiad, and Davine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. Jamie, thoughts?
My thoughts are that I've seen The Holdovers. I've seen Barbie and Oppenheimer. I've not seen The Colour Purple and Naiad yet. So the one thing I will say is that I think that Davine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers, you know, I'm very fond of that film. I think she's absolutely incredible. Like, she shows a lot of range. She's very funny. She is grieving, and the performance is really quite varied, and it's deep and it's emotional. I think we do have. I don't think anyone else has even got a look in. If I'm being quite honest, I think it's going to be Davine Joy Randolph. I think America Ferrera. I have been criticised for what I said on the Barbie podcast, our Barbie podcast, which was that her monologue was. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't think it was. I thought we were getting beaten around the head by just obvious stuff that, like, is just a bit over the top. But
the feedback we had on that was the fact that they said some people in the audience didn't understand what the film was trying to say throughout, so that was a way of just lowest common denominator. You'll understand it through this
exactly.
speech.
Listen,
which was the feedback on that.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what? Valid feedback. I think that it's weird, isn't it? I don't pride myself on, like, being a feminist, blah blah blah. It's just like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, it's equality, like, you dummy. So it's weird to say, like, it's like saying, like, oh, I look after my kids. Yeah, of course you do. You're supposed to, idiot. Like, for me, it's like it just seems so obvious that we're being hammered with that, but at the same time, friend of the pod did say like, yeah, well, some people need to hear that, and you know what, that's fine, and she's been lauded for that, and so for that reason, if there was a reason for America Ferrera to win the Oscar, it would be because of that, and yes, she deserves it because of that.
I think that was a massive moment. I just remember TikTok and Instagram going wild for that when that happened.
However, the women in our lives maybe were like, where did also say, actually,
I said on
I
the
disagree with that.
Pod, Harriet was just like, I can't remember how she said it, but she just said I didn't need that. She said I was up with the messaging until that point. I felt it was just saying things I didn't need it to, which I found really interesting. But look, anyway, bye.
Do you know what? Everyone's different, and there are some dummies out there that do need to hear it. But I also think that the dummies that need to hear it probably wouldn't be watching a Barbie film. So there we go. I think Davine Joy Randolph, give me that win for her in The Holdovers. She's unbelievable. Please go watch The Holdovers.
And then next one
John,
is
next.
Best Actress, which is Annette Bening in Naiad, Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon, I think that's the winner, Sandra Hüller in Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan in Maestro, and Emma Stone in Poor Things.
Okay, so Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon was the best female performance I'd seen all year. She is the first Native American actress to be nominated for an Oscar. So this is a bit of a weird one for me. So Lily Gladstone is incredible, and I want her to win. However, I did watch Anatomy of a Fall, and Sandra Hüller in Anatomy of a Fall. I genuinely believe the performance from Sandra Hüller is better than Lily Gladstone's. We are literally talking a hair. Do you know what I mean? And also, what do I know? This is just an opinion. And a subjective opinion. They're both absolutely unbelievable in both films. I personally think Sandra Hüller's performance in Anatomy of a Fall is better. However, Lily Gladstone is a 5-star performance and there's not much in it. But for all the reasons mentioned, for the fact that she is an Osage actress, like, I want her to win. Like, she should. I'd love to see her win. It's brilliant that she's been nominated, and let's go for that. But I do think Sandra Hüller's performance is better.
Next up is Best Supporting Actor. We have Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction, Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling in Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things.
Yep. So for this one, tell me about Robert Downey Jr., John.
I thought he would probably win for this for two reasons. One, it's his anti-Marvel phase, isn't it? He's doing. I was about to say proper acting again. Maybe I won't say that. But no, he's doing different things, and he's doing. What a dick. Basically, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer. Like, Jamie initially said to me, I don't think he's that big a deal in that film, but the film is basically about, like, Oppenheimer's life was a living hell because of his relationship with Robert Downey Jr.'s character within that film. And the film is giving context to, he thinks it's been treated a certain way. By the end of the film, he realises he hasn't, but he's put in motion all things that have happened throughout the film because of that. So I think, yes, he will win Best Supporting Actor, and also he's unrecognisable, and the fact, like, his hair is gone and looks very, very funny, different. Man. There we go.
That's so funny that you say that. Because do you remember, like, there was that one, like, still of Leonardo DiCaprio in Killers of the Flower Moon sitting at the table like with like mouth upturned. He's like, oh my god, DiCaprio looks unrecognizable, and that's just all everyone kept saying, like, and I just thought it was, like, hilarious. So for me, I do not get the Robert Downey Jr. thing. I don't get it. Everyone's like, oh my god, Robert. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But so for me, I do think the big thing about I think Ryan Gosling, he daren't get that Oscar because there will be uproar. Like, how dare they even nominate him and not nominate Margot Robbie? Now, we'll talk about that in a minute, Best Actress in a minute, but I would say that I don't think Gosling's not going to win. Like, basically, I don't think Gosling's going to win for the simple fact that he can't now, because Margot Robbie's not been nominated, so that means he can't win. He's also come out and not criticised, but been like, yeah, well, the film isn't the film without Margot. Correct, he's right, and I do agree with that. However,
I'm surprised he was even nominated for Best Supporting Actor with that turning Barbie. Like, I just didn't.
He's good. He's really
fun.
good.
It's fun, isn't it? But the comparison I've said to you previously is, I think Hugh Grant's fun in Paddington 2. I don't think it's Oscar worthy.
The thing is with Ryan. The thing is with Ryan Gosling though, he's singing, he's dancing. You know, like he's also being funny. So I think he's doing a lot. I'm doing him a disservice.
I take it back.
He's doing a lot of different. Oh, mate. You're easy, mate. I've just pretty much talked you straight out of it. Easy peasy. What a walkover. I still don't want to win, whatever. Well, no. So I think Best Supporting Actor. Right. So I think that Robert Downey Jr. will win because of just all the stuff I've heard about it. I've still not seen American Fiction, but Sterling K. Brown's supposed to be incredible in that. I think that I would like to see Ryan Gosling win because I think he's just really good. I think that Robert Downey Jr. will win. Robert De Niro as well in Killers of the Flower Moon. He's good, man. He's good. He's great. I've not said anything, have I? I'm talking, but I ain't saying nothing, John. I want to say that Ryan Gosling's winning. No, I want Ryan Gosling to win, but I think Robert Downey Jr. will win. All right.
Best Actor, we have Bradley Cooper in Maestro, Coleman Domingo in Rustin, Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction.
Okay, so Kim's .horror.escape. Sorry. .horror.escape. It's changed now. So she did write in. I don't have the original question, but she did write in just basically saying, what happens if Paul Giamatti doesn't win? He should win. Are we going to riot? That's not verbatim, but that's basically, I know that Kim means that, and that's what I mean as well, because I'm telling you now, if Paul Giamatti does not win Best Actor, I will be rioting. Cillian Murphy will probably win it, if I'm being honest. I think he's going to win it. I think Oppenheimer's going to absolutely clean up, and that's a sad thing for me.
I thought maybe Cooper for Maestro because it's still Hollywood related, and you know Hollywood loves a film on Hollywood.
Did he win Best Actor for the film that's basically that film?
What?
Right. What's it called?
No,
Star In the Shadows.
No, because it sounds like the song's called In the Shallow, and I got confused.
Oh, okay.
In the Star.
No. So what's A Star Is Born? 2018.
Yeah,
so
get the Oscars up.
Oscar.
It won for the song.
So Best Actor. Best Actor 2018. Right. Who's Best Actor 2018? Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour. What's wrong?
I'm
you were doing. Right. Okay.
So
let's do Best Actor 2019.
So last week.
I know. I am. So Rami Malek won in 2019 for Bohemian Rhapsody, which isn't a very good film in my opinion. I think that Rocketman's better, but we're not here for that. And Gary Oldman won Best Actor for Darkest Hour, so that means
that's when he plays.
That Bradley Cooper was snubbed for that, and I actually think in A Star Is Born he is incredible. Do you know what I love about Bradley Cooper? His voice. He's just got such a manly voice. I imagine being a woman, right? And I imagine him just being like, well, it's time to go down there. Like, just really, like, just southern
drawl.
Alcoholic.
That's what you mean. Southern drawl is what you're going for.
That's
Who do you
it.
think's
Southern
win,
drawl.
Jamie?
Best Actor. So I think Cillian Murphy's going to win, but if Paul Giamatti doesn't win, we riot. Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, I would say, it's such a beautiful performance, and he's such a complex character. I know that obviously Cillian Murphy is also a complex character in Oppenheimer, as Oppenheimer, but I put it this way. If Alexander Payne had got the IMAX cameras in and got right up to Paul Giamatti's face with an IMAX camera, then he'd be winning. Paul Giamatti for Holdovers, it has to be him. He's wonderful. The film is wonderful. It's a Christmas classic. I'm telling you now, this film is... Oh, I'll use this hand. This film is a Christmas classic. Let's go. Paul Giamatti.
Best Original Screenplay. Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, Past Lives. I'm aware you haven't seen all of these, so take your pick.
Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. That's what we're going for that.
Brilliant. And
is that on there?
Win? No.
What will win? So what will win is going to be Oh, sorry, original screenplay. Oh, I was talking about adapted. My joke's ruined. I got it right the first time. God damn it.
What first time?
Best original screenplay.
First time. Sorry, yeah, go on.
No, I know. Sucked an eye. So, best original screenplay, I think, will be going to Past Lives, even though it wasn't for me because of the way that the boyfriend is treated like a piece of trash by the main actress in the film. I don't know her name. So there's a bit in that film that upset me a little bit. Past Lives is probably going to get it. It's a 5-star film for most people. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. I would love to see Anatomy of a Fall get it. I think Anatomy of a Fall has to get something, and so I want. Oh no, this is a horrible category. So I think Past Lives is going to win. I want The Holdovers or Anatomy of a Fall to win, and one of those films is going to. So I think The Holdovers is going to be a film that's going to be talked about for years. I promise you, it's magic. So this is hard, John. I'm giving my final answer. Past Lives to win, even though I don't want it to win. And I think that Anatomy of a Fall I would give to best screenplay. Okay.
Best adapted screenplay, even though I disagree with what classifies as adapted screenplay these days. American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Zone of Interest, and for the record, my dig is at Barbie because it's not a pre-existing novel. It's a IP, which is now being touted as an adapted screenplay of the IP. I mean, I suppose it is.
Can I tell my joke now?
But go.
So my joke is Are You There, God It's Me, Margaret on there?
No.
Because that's what I would choose. Oh, right. Written by Judy Blume, changed many people's lives, and now has been, it's been completely snubbed, and I'm not at all happy about it. Adapted screenplay. So Barbie's not an adapted screenplay, so that can just go away.
I thought Zone of Interest might get this, but then I've heard actually it's quite different to the book itself anyway. And the other one,
Oppenheimer's going to get it, if I'm being honest.
Oppenheimer, because it's based on American Prometheus, which is the book, so who knows?
Look, at the end of the day, I hate that patter. What I think that, again, I've not seen American Fiction, so I can't comment. I've not seen Poor Things, so I can't comment. Adapted screenplay, I think Oppenheimer's going to get it.
That's his best
I think
guess.
Zone of Interest should get it, if I'm being completely honest. But
we just wanted to make sure Zone of Interest wins
something.
something. I'd rather it win Best Sound than Best Adapted Screenplay, to be completely honest.
I would rather it win Best Sound because it's magic.
Anything, because we discussed last time, and that's the other question, which I've just remembered, which is about how to make Oscars more relevant and like how to like keep it up to date. And I said my best thing for the Oscars is when it's the smaller films that get awarded, because it makes people watch them. Because when you go on Now TV or you go on Netflix and it says critically acclaimed, Oscar winning, you watch it.
Coda.
Or you give it a go. Whereas if it doesn't have that, you don't give it a go. So having that boost the Oscars, I think, is the plus point. I like to see more of that rather than give me 10 nominations for Oppenheimer or whatever. But that is by the by.
Yeah, so I think, as I say, like, I think that the sad thing about these Oscars is that, and sad or what, Barbie 8 nominations, Oppenheimer,
I didn't even count,
I don't know how many categories are there. It's probably Oppenheimer's been nominated for best documentary short. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's been nominated for it's not, but it's been nominated for every single one. It's a bit boring, isn't it? So this has been an unbelievable year for film. So why are we just dwelling on these things? We're going to talk about films that have been snubbed in a bit, but best adapted screenplay, the fact that you've not got Kelly Fremon Craig in there, who is genuinely unbelievable, and I will not stop till she comes on the podcast. I can't believe it. Like, it's ridiculous that she's not even in there. So there we go. I think that Oppenheimer's probably going to win, and I want Zone of Interest to win, and Barbie just shouldn't be in there. Stupid. 8. Sorry, I was like getting really sharp. 8 nominations. Like, it doesn't need to be in there. Give it 7.
Speaking of awards, I think Oppenheimer's also going to win. Best Director, Anatomy of a Fall, Justin Triet, Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese, Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan, Poor Things, Yorgos Lanthimos, and The Zone of Interest, Jonathan Glazer. Now, heart of hearts, I feel like Nolan hasn't won Best Director yet, has he? I think this could be the one.
No, he hasn't.
Scorsese won it for
The Departed.
Did he win Best Director?
The Departed.
Best Picture?
He won Best Director for The Departed. Yeah.
Fine. You think it will
I'm
be...
quite sure of that. Like I'm very sure of that. He's been snubbed many. Like he won for The Departed, and it's like it's probably not even in his top 10. Ridiculous. I think that. So looking at this now, Best Director. So I do think Nolan's going to win this. I really think he's going to. Is he? No, in fact, no, I don't. I think Scorsese's going to win this. Here.
Jamie said last time that he thought Scorsese would win it, due partly to his age and the stage of his career, the stage of career that he's at. I argued against, though. I thought it was going to be Nolan solely on the basis of, like, this is his historical epic. I mean, Dunkirk was as well, though, wasn't it? And it didn't kind of get the recognition I thought it would get. Was this? I feel like Oppenheimer is the story of like the atomic bomb, which is like the nuclear bomb, whatever. The biggest, like, most monumental shift of like power and everything that's ever happened. So I feel like it's going to be recognised on that basis, and I do feel like the direction and the way he cuts around through the 3 separate timelines and through etc., I feel like it will be recognised in Best Director or potentially Best Picture, but I hope it doesn't get both, because then it kind of ruins it for me.
It's really hard, right? Because if you think about it, right, Hitchcock's never won Best Director. Sidney Lumet's never won Best Director. Paul Thomas Anderson's never won Best Director. Nolan's never won Best Director. Fincher's never won Best Director. Tarantino's never won Best Director. So Kubrick never won Best Director. So
wild.
So yeah, wild. And it took them up until I want to say The Departed was 2006. I don't know off
something like that.
Yeah, 2006. Sorry, it was 2006. And you've got Scorsese that's been making films since the 60s and 70s, and he's not won since 2006. And he's directed stuff like Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Silence, Casino, The Wolf of Wall Street, and he's won for one of his films that's not even that good. Same as DiCaprio won Best Actor for The Revenant, which I don't like, but he won it because I ate a live animal and I actually just spent the time out here. Like, no, that's not what Best Actor is. Best Actor is Best Actor, not best doer of things.
No, he was engrossed in the
you know what I mean? Like,
so Jamie,
and it says that.
Do you genuinely? Sorry, no, I'm cutting you off on this because we are running to our time.
I'll go forever.
On Best Director, do you really believe that it will be Martin Scorsese? Or are you doubling down on the belief that you think it will be?
Yeah, no. So okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be Scorsese. I think it's going to be Scorsese because of his age, and I think that Nolan will. I think Oppenheimer is going to win the next category. So I'm going to go with, and also Nolan is about 45, so
he's got plenty of time.
That's why,
and plenty of pictures.
He's got. Well, he has, but he's also on a downward spiral. I think. Well, not anymore, but he was after Tenet.
I mean, he made his bad one, which was Tenet, and Tenet's not horrendous. It's just
he's 53. Bloody hell, he looks good for his age.
Tenet is a classic example of when you've reached the peak of your powers, and you can basically do any story you want, and the story you pick is one that people just didn't get on board with.
Yeah. So Best Director. Oh, sorry, and I must just quickly. I'm so sorry. I know we're running slightly long. But I will say that Greta Gerwig, apparent snub, like it's not a snub at all. I would personally say that I think that there's been way bigger snubs than Greta Gerwig, like in the past, and so Celine Sciamma for Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which won nothing. Greta Gerwig's apparently been snubbed for Barbie when she's actually made Little Women, which is way better, and Lady Bird, which she did get nominated for, probably should have won for, which is way better. So we don't think about the direction when we think about Best Director. The other films in this are far better. Best Picture, John.
American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Now, I feel like if Hollywood's going on its artist trail, remember when it did The Artist? I feel like it could be The Zone of Interest as picking the one you don't expect. If it's going for trying to get more popularity and appease lots of people in the sense of Instagram community / people who are interested, I think it's going to be Oppenheimer or Barbie, but I just cannot see Barbie ever winning Best Picture.
Imagine if Barbie won it.
I just don't. I don't think it. I personally don't think it is. I think I love Barbie.
I don't even think a film,
but I don't think it.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't. I feel
Barbie's
like
Barbie's an 8 out of 10, and Barbie's an 8 out of 10, and Anatomy of a Fall is 9.5. The Holdovers is 9.5. Killers of a Flower Moon is 9.5. Oppenheimer's 8. Past Lives is 7, but 9.5 to everyone else, which is fine, and I agree with that. Poor Things apparently up there. Zone of Interest up there. So I actually think Best Picture is. I think it's going to be. They're going to switch this, right? So this is my prediction.
Go for it.
And we'll go back to this anyway. My prediction is this: Scorsese wins Best Director, or Nolan wins Best Director,
and the opposite gets the other one.
Is true in the Best Picture, 100%. So Killers of the Flower Moon will get Best Picture, or Oppenheimer, and it will be flipped. They're not gonna. Oppenheimer's not gonna win Best Picture, Best Director. It just can't happen.
No.
I also think that go on.
No, I'm agreeing. It normally alternates between the two, doesn't it? You don't get both in the same category very rarely.
I think Past Lives has got a really good chance of winning Best Picture. I really, really do, because people have loved that film. I think Anatomy of a Fall has got a good chance of winning Best Picture. But again, we're talking about foreign films winning Best Picture, which is Parasite is the only film, which is, we'll talk about Parasite one day. I think, so I'm going to go with Best Director is going to be Scorsese, because it's Scorsese and it's the person. Best Picture is going to go for Oppenheimer. Okay?
Because of the cultural significance of it. But then the thing is, like, obviously Killers of the Flower Moon has such massive cultural significance as well, as a Zone of Interest. So that's a tough category, to be fair.
I'm looking at it now.
I think it will be.
Do you know what I'm going to say, though?
But yeah.
Do you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say that Barbie does not belong in that list. And nor does Maestro. I haven't seen Maestro, but I've seen. In fact, shut up, Jamie. I've not seen Maestro, so what do I know? So I'm just saying, I've seen Barbie. It doesn't belong in the list.
Maestro is kind of the Oscar baity kind of film, but that's okay. Anyway,
yeah.
Let's be honest. The best Oscar
who do you want to?
film,
So who do you want to win? Who do you want to win?
Best Picture.
Yeah. Who do you want?
Of what I've seen, which isn't a great deal on there, then it probably would be Oppenheimer, because the only ones I'm comparing against. I don't feel like Zone of Interest is going to win Best Picture, because I just don't think it has the appeal. And as that sounds,
I don't think it will win Best Picture.
It's not had the release or what have you. Like, it's just not the same. So I feel like it will.
But nor did Coda. Coda, which one? I think that one last year. Like, it just that was. Yeah, I've still not seen it myself.
So yeah, there we are.
So that's so the final is. I think Oppenheimer will probably win Best Picture, but I think Best Director is going to be Scorsese.
And you can watch the Oscars on Sunday, March 10th, 2024. Not far away.
Oh, look at him doing his homework. Shall we quickly? Film Forager writes in and says, yes. Who would be your dream guest for the Oscars, John?
Now, I had to check who it was, and I've forgotten who it was now, but it was
Who is it?
Jimmy someone, wasn't it?
Oh, Jimmy Kimmel, yeah, he's such an annoying guy.
I said to Jamie previously, I'm surprised it's not James Corden, because the Americans love James Corden probably more than the Brits do these days.
Can you imagine? No. I would do unspeakable things if James Corden was hosting that. Unspeakable things like I did when I found out the pod was ruined.
Yeah, that was not.
But this has been great. This has been a really good pod, to be fair. I think I nearly said the F word. We are flipping professionals, mate.
I was actually going to say that I think we did a better job covering the Zone of Interest this time, because I had more time to think about it, but that is a different conversation. In terms of host for the Oscars, I said previously I'd like someone like Harrison Ford, who clearly just wouldn't want to be there. It'd be quite funny. But then Jamie says I need someone to entertain me between two of the boring categories to like keep the energy up, and I don't think Harrison Ford is that guy.
No, he's not. He's about 500 years old.
You want an entertainer, someone who's got it. Someone like Chris Tucker back in the day, like he's got the vibes going.
Yeah, he has.
Like,
he has.
I love that.
I'm just giving straight from the Golden Globes. I'm going to take Ricky Gervais, and I want him to be on the Oscars, because I want to see him just like. annihilate every single person in that front row. Like, just annihilate.
He's done it.
I don't care, and he'll do it again, and I want to see him do it. I just love those people that are so privileged getting annihilated, and that's what I want to see. So that's what I want to see.
After the envelope issue a few years ago,
oh god,
they
with
are
the
never. They're never gonna then have a controversial host as well, because they've had their thing, and then they had Will Smith slapping someone last year. So it's just
Will Smith, who destroyed his whole career by doing, like, no one's gonna forget. What a pathetic thing to do in front of everyone. Like, ugh. And do you know what? Fair play to who did he slap? Chris Rock. Yeah, he slapped Chris Rock. Fair play to him for, like, the way he reacted. Like, unbelievable. One last question before we head off into the sunset. Like, two gunslingers that are knackered because they've done the same pod twice. Kim's.horror.escape writes in and she says, forget the snubby snub. Margot Robbie got snubbed. What film would you have liked to have seen nominated in whatever category you want? So I've got a big fat list here. So I want to talk about Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I haven't mentioned it yet. By Kelly Freming Craig. No, I know I did, and I'm talking about it again, John. That was a joke, John.
Oh, my bad. But you're having a moment.
Kelly Freming Craig directed this film. It was written by Judy Blume. Changed many women's lives. Apparently, so I hear. I must improve my bust. That's a quote, direct quote, not from me. Anyway, best animated feature, right? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that it's an absolute disgusting disgrace. There's nowhere to be seen because it's absolutely fantastic, really fun, really funny. The art style is unbelievable, and I think that had Spider-Verse, I don't know why Across the Spider-Verse is there, because I just don't think it's anywhere near as good as the first one. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been snubbed big time. Best original screenplay, Champions, Bobby Farrelly, thank you very much. Brilliant. Does a great job of, actually, no pun intended, but championing just the community that like, so a lot of, like, disabled community, that kind of thing. Like, Bobby, you will see the Farrelly brothers doing that quite often. It's a wonderful film. I want to talk about How to Have Sex. I want to talk about Rye Lane, completely snubbed. Air, completely snubbed, which is brilliant. Best documentary, still Michael J. Fox, completely snubbed.
Very good.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, best picture, completely snubbed. So yeah, though, for me, those are just a handful of films that I think were really snubbed. So yeah. What about you, John? Anything for you?
Rye Lane was the one that stuck out because that was the main film that I'd seen this year that wasn't on the list that I thought would be on the list, just because really enjoyed it. That was right at the start of the year, that was. I feel like you came...
It was, and I watched it twice. We covered it. We covered the film.
Yeah, I remember you...
Anyway.
Hey-ho.
Look, it's Friday night, and we've both got stuff to do, haven't we, John?
We have. I need dinner.
Have we? And do you know what? Do you know what I ate for dinner? Well,
No.
do you know what I ate when I got in from work? I got in from work, and I immediately made myself one slice of bread with cheese, onion, and folded it over. And then I've just had 3 whiskeys. So Daddy is... Well, I've just called myself Daddy. That just shows you how drunk I am. So I do want to say thank you for... John's like looking at me like, what is wrong?
We only accept 5-star reviews. Please like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure on YouTube you only say... You have to type Movies in a Podshell all as one word, otherwise it doesn't work. Jamie has had 3 and he's going off the rails.
I want to say thank you to Watch with Beck, Stacey's Pop Culture Parlor, Raiders of the Podcast. How was that movie? I want to say thank you to Tony. I want to say thank you to Kim for just and Kate for just actually just being really nice to us and saying, I'm so sorry you lost your original podcast, and sending me messages and just being really nice. So I do want to say thank you to all those people. Please go on moviesinapodshell.sumupstore.com, buy a t-shirt. It really helps us out. They're only £18. It's pre-shrunk cotton. It's delicious. It's lovely. Go on our YouTube. Just type Movies in a Podshell, all one word. No spaces, Tony. No spaces, Tony. Go on our Instagram. You can find me at Movies in a Podshell. Where can they find you, John, before we disappear?
At jcb.video.
That's a wrap. See you later for the second episode 70 of Movies in a Podshell podcast. Say goodbye, John.
Riverside, if you've not recorded this, we are done.
Riverside, if you've not recorded this, this is the end of Movies in a Podshell, son. See ya!